Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to Results Washington's Reflection Series. We are here to highlight the continuous improvement efforts taking place across our state's enterprise. There is so much good work going on, and we want to explore not only the impactful projects driving all these changes, but also spotlight the subject matter experts making it all happen. During this time together, we hear their stories, their trials and triumphs, and the invaluable lessons they've learned along the way. I am Talia Mazzara. I am a Senior Performance Advisor here at Results Washington. And today I am so pleased to welcome Greg Mennegar, who is the Productivity Board Manager with the Office of the Secretary of State. And he is here to share about an awesome program, the Washington State Productivity Board, which incentivizes state employees to help state government operate more efficiently. Thank you so much for joining us, Greg.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Talia. I really appreciate it.
Yes, we're so excited. Let's just jump right in. Can you tell our listeners
Sure.
a little bit about you, what you do, and then what your office is responsible for?
Sure. Well, thank you. As you said, my name is Greg Mennegar, and I'm the manager of the Productivity Board for the Secretary of State's office. We're a statewide program. We are the state's employee suggestion program. So any state employee can participate in the program with a few exceptions. Elected officials, agency heads, their confidential assistants, and us, the staff of the Productivity Board, are ineligible to participate. But other than that, universities, all higher learning education systems, the community colleges, technical colleges, and all state employees can submit suggestions to the Productivity Board. And if their ideas either save money or generate new revenue for the state, they can get cash awards of up to $10,000. So that's a little bit about the program. As far as me, I have spent most of my career in sales and marketing and primarily working with business to business solutions that help automate the flow of information and processes. So accounts payable automation, things of that nature. And I reached a point in my career where I wanted to try to give back something more to, with my work. And this opportunity with the Productivity Board presented itself. And I applied for the position, and here I am. And the Productivity Board is kind of an interesting program because it was actually started in 1982. And in 2011, during the housing crisis, the program was defunded, along with a lot of other boards and commissions. And I had actually worked for the state about 20 years ago. I worked for the state archives, also for the Secretary of State's office, and had some limited awareness of the program, but I didn't really know much about it. And when I joined the office and came here to restart the program, I was fortunate that there was some remainders of the previous program. So there were some, there were some foundational elements to build on and start the program. But it was really exciting and fun to really kind of have the opportunity to rebuild it from scratch and get things started. So I'm super excited about what we've been doing so far and what's to come.
Awesome. Thank you for that background and that history. So you say that at some point it was defunded, but wonderfully it came back, which is super awesome. Is there something that like occurred or happened to where you're aware of that someone said, okay, it's time to bring this back now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really don't know exactly the specific thing that brought it back, but there were efforts to prevent it from ending by Sam Reed, who was the Secretary of State at that time. And then after he retired, Kim Wyman was elected to the position, and she tried to bring it back. So there were ongoing efforts. the Federation of State Employees was very supportive of the Productivity Board program, so they were supportive of it coming back. But for whatever reason, bills never made it to the floor to start it back up. There was a bill that did make it to the floor, and when it did, it was approved unanimously. So there were no votes. So it was, once it made it to the floor, it was very popular and was, funded and brought back, and provisions were made for staffing, and here we are.
Wonderful. And so for anyone listening, usually I speak to the audience of, continuous improvement practitioners. For anyone listening, I hope your ears are perking up because this is an exciting program and opportunity for, those ideas for process improvement to really be heard and possibly selected and implemented and rewarded. So can you walk us through just a little bit more, not too granular, but a little bit more granular than your previous explanation on what this really looks like as a program? How does somebody just where do they start?
Sure. No, that's great, and I appreciate that opportunity. So there are two different ways that people can make suggestions and get cash awards through the Productivity Board program. And the first one is it's the Employee Suggestion Program. That is the name of the program. And it's basically just having an idea. So it starts with an idea. When the program was initially started in 1982, it was during a recession, and the idea was to reach out to frontline workers and to get their feedback on things that weren't efficient, that were wasteful, and to identify those, and then in turn reward those employees for helping to reduce the operating expenses of government. And so with the employee suggestion program, there are some eligibility requirements, which are all on our website. If it's part of your job to negotiate contracts and you save money, for example, that would not be an eligible suggestion. Or if your manager told you to do something and it resulted in savings, that would not be eligible. If it's a complaint about the workplace, so there are things that won't qualify, but generally speaking, if it's not something that you have the power to implement on your own without your agency's approval, and it doesn't contradict any of the agency policies or the RCW or the WAC, it's probably going to be eligible. And really, all that has to be done is the employee would come to, or the suggester would come to our website with their idea. We have forms there where they can submit, complete the information that we need to review it for eligibility. And if it meets the eligibility requirements, then we will reach out to the agency that would be affected by the suggestion, ask them to assign a subject matter expert to evaluate that suggestion, and then make a recommendation as to whether to adopt it or not. And once we receive that recommendation, then we have a 9-member board that's a very diverse group of individuals from different parts of state government and outside state government that are stakeholders that really perform kind of an oversight function to make sure that that whole process was fair, and and they make a final determination on the cash award. So that would be, and the agency implements the suggestion. So really, it's just having an idea, presenting it, providing a cost benefit analysis, what the impact of the idea would be, what research you've done to determine that it would be practical to implement this idea, and then send it to us, and we do the rest. The other program, and this I think is more applicable to the lean practitioners. It's not just having an idea, but it's actually performing a project and implementing a new process that results in cost savings or additional revenue. And so that team would get together and perform the project and measure the results. And then there's there aren't really any eligibility requirements for that other than that it has to either save money or generate new revenue.
Hmm.
And the agency really approves it. So the head of the agency would authorize the project and authorize the team for a cash award. And then they would submit those approvals to the productivity board. Our board members would review that and authorize it. And then the team would get the cash awards. So, and that one's a little bit different in that it can be submitted after the idea is implemented. With the first program, the ideas have to be submitted prior to implementation. But in the case of the teamwork incentive program, the ideas can be submitted after the idea has been implemented. So up to a year after.
Awesome. Okay,
So that's
so
that's kind
that's
of
a
how it
lot of
works.
great
So
in that's a
maybe I
lot
was a
of
little
great
too
information.
granular, but I hope not.
No, 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 not at all. Not too granular. A lot of good information, and there's a few things that I just heard in there that I think are super important, and I want to call out is that it sounds like you said, you really touched on what ideas don't count. So you're really looking for something that is an original idea that's not already written in a position description. It's not delegated to you by your soup, but it's got to be something that has not been thought of yet that can save the state money and create efficiency. So that's number one that I heard. And then also it sounds like there are two different programs, very similar, but different in the sense that the reward is a bit different and how you submit it is different. You can either submit as an individual and get a reward that way, or submit as a team and get a reward that you split between the team. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Wonderful. And so I know that recently I saw on your LinkedIn that you issued out an award. Can you tell us a little bit about that recent success?
Sure. Well, the most recent one was a team from the lottery, and yeah. So as you can imagine, the lottery has a lot of money,
Mhm.
and they have accounts that they manage where the prize money sits, and uh, so it's a combination of things, but it was really a cash management project. So that what they looked at a number of things. They looked at the money that they have in their accounts and whether that money was just sitting there being static, or were there ways that they could really take advantage of the large amount of money that they had and earn interest on it. So that was one thing that they looked at. And then another thing that they looked at was their accounts payable and maximizing the amount of time that they were able to keep the money in the accounts before they paid invoices allows them to generate additional revenue on that money. So through a combination of different things that are above my head in terms of financial management. They really are daily managing those funds and making sure that they are leveraging they're maximizing their earning potential, from the interest that's available. And that generated in an eight. So you can do you can measure a project for up to a year.
Mhm.
They measured 8 months worth of results, and during that time period, they generated an additional $729,000
Wow.
in revenue for the
That's
state.
awesome.
And the projections are that it will be somewhere around $1 million a year in new revenue.
That
So
is
it's pretty
great.
cool. So
Very
that's the kind of
cool.
creative thinking, looking at, here's where we are. They did a lot of other things in addition to that, but that was the gist of it. It was really just looking at how we can make money off the money that we have and generate additional revenue.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And I hope that inspires somebody listening. So, a reward was just recently issued to Lottery. They did great with that project. Congratulations, folks, if you were on that team. And I do have a question. So, for the folks who may submit an idea in the future, about how long does the process take from,
Mhm.
submission to, assessing it and your determination?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so there is a process. We get the suggestion, if it's an employee suggestion program suggestion, we will review it for eligibility within 48 hours and submit it to the agency. And then they have up to 45 days to perform their evaluation. And then once we receive their recommendation, it goes to our board, which meets on a quarterly basis. So the timeline is a little, it can fluctuate, but typically it's about a 3 to 4 month process or less for somebody to get approved.
Wonderful. This is exciting to me. The lean practitioner in me is like jumping up and down because I was always one of those frontline workers whose wheels were always turning with ideas. So I love that this exists. How would you say this work creates equitable outcomes for Washingtonians? And I'm going to even say, the state employees that are submitting the ideas.
Yeah. Uh, so I'll start with the employees. So for the employees, it really provides them with a, you know, I talk about us as being kind of like Switzerland. So we're a neutral third party where those suggestions can come
Mhm.
and ideas can be submitted anonymously. So it can take the personality or um, the internal politics out of the idea process and make sure that we're giving people a voice is the
Mhm.
way that I look at it. So people have the opportunity to submit that suggestion to us. They may have talked to their supervisor or somebody in management about it and and just, been told, no, we've always done it this way and we're going to keep doing it this way. Uh, when it comes to us, it's going back with some weight behind it because
Mhm.
we have a coordinator at every agency who's been appointed by the director typically to facilitate the processing of the suggestions, and then they're going to find an independent subject matter expert to evaluate that. So there's just more process around that.
Mhm.
For the citizens, I think that it's really just looking out for all of our tax money,
Mhm.
and also it's not just cost savings. There are a lot of things that really make government more effective. And so, one example that comes to mind for me is recently we received a suggestion from the Employment Security Department. And they get a lot of correspondence and they get a lot of claims that are submitted from people that English is not their first language.
Mhm.
And so um, the cost aspect of that was that they were getting these letters and communications and they were paying a translation service to convert those into English so that staff could act on them.
Mhm.
And then when they were responding, they would also engage with that translation service, to reply to the person.
Mhm.
And so that was very expensive.
Mhm.
And not only that, but the part where it improved government service was it took a while. So sometimes it would take 3 to 4 weeks for that communication to go back and forth. And their idea was to create templates that were already for a lot of the communications, they were saying the same thing over and over. And so they just created templates that could be reused and automate or at least reduce the amount of effort and time that was needed to respond to those questions and follow up with people. So that saved about $44,000 a year in the translation services, but it also reduced that timeline of up to a month down to a day or two in most cases
Wow.
to respond. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that's great. That's where my heart is. I love hearing about the the leaning of these processes and how it just helps the customer on the other end just waiting. That's awesome. Is there a next step in this program? Is there something you all are like looking forward to in 2025, or is it pretty much just implemented now and you're at a point where you're like let the ideas roll in?
Yeah. So yeah, this first year has really just been about building the foundation, building awareness about the program. Um, After being gone for so long,
Mhm.
the level of awareness about the productivity board program really dropped. There are some longtime state employees that like, oh yeah, I remember that, but most people, are not. A lot of people have not heard about it. So building awareness has been a huge part of our efforts, and now we want to start refining the program. We're in the process right now of building a suggestion portal that will give us more ability to automate the suggestion process, those different steps that I mentioned and the communications that surround those, but also to eventually provide insight into the program from suggesters, from the coordinators, and allow us to maybe build some dashboards showing what our results are and have those update in real time. So that's kind of where we're headed. I mentioned before we got on this call that we had some staffing issues, so we'll be fully staffed here soon and bringing and we've reclassified some of the positions to better fit the needs of the program so that we can focus more on data-driven decisions
Mhm.
and do more follow-up and communication with the agencies about their participation and share success stories more readily. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at for this coming year.
Awesome. Let's see. Oh, this is a burning question. With hmm, the current state we're in, budget and deficit wise, how does this impact the program's ability to issue awards, if at all?
Yep. That's a great question, and it's one of the biggest questions around the award is where does the money come from?
Mhm.
And the productivity board does not have a pot of gold that we're dispensing awards from. So really, uh, what our program does, the way it works, the way the awards get paid out is by the agency that benefits from the suggestion. So if an employee makes a suggestion, let's say they work at the Department of Corrections and they can make a suggestion about any state agency. It doesn't have to be their own. They make a suggestion, and the agency is currently spending X dollars on, whatever it is that their suggestion is in regards to.
Mhm.
If they find cost savings, then there's money already budgeted that they're already spending, and
Mhm.
what the suggestion does is reduces that spending, and then the award is really just a slice of that piece of pie that's not getting eaten anymore. So the money's already there. If it's a cost saving idea, the employee suggestion program, it's 10% of whatever the savings are, and it's capped out at $10,000. So there is a limit on the amount of money that the person can receive. Um, and if it's new revenue, then again, you're just taking money that wasn't there, creating new revenue, and then again, just giving a slice of that to the person that came up with the idea.
It must feel really good for you to lead this work. I just am curious, do you have like a favorite aspect about your position in all of this? It feels like such a rewarding job.
Yeah. Well, having come from a background in private industry where I worked with organizations to try to help them operate more efficiently, and then being able to return to state government and really help save the government money, help save our citizens, make sure that our citizens' tax dollars are being spent responsibly and efficiently, and then rewarding people for and encouraging people to actively participate in coming up with new ideas. All of that is just really exciting for me, and I just love it. So, um, yeah,
A lot of incentive, especially for frontline workers, at some point I would imagine, well, I know because I've been there, but at some point, you feel like you're doing all this work, you're so close to it, and so close and passionate to help the customer, and sometimes you have ideas, and sometimes you don't feel high enough on the totem pole to really put those ideas in or be heard. And so I love how subjective this program is. You're just looking for good ideas. It doesn't matter who submits it. So I think that's super great and inspiring. My last main question is, what was the biggest challenge that you faced during implementing, bringing back this improvement effort? It's a huge and great program because it's totally contributing to the efficiency of the government of Washington State, but also the accountability, and you're rewarding for it, right? So are there any challenges that you faced during all of this work to bring it back? And if so, what would you have done differently?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know that there's just one single challenge, but um, I would start out with just building the team and
Mhm.
getting the right people to do this work and to have the creativity to start, from a blank slate almost and build something from the ground up. So there was that. And then the awareness issues that I mentioned, really um, doing a ton of outreach to every agency that I can connect with to ask them if I can come to their all staff meetings or if I can come to their leadership meetings or if I can come to OFM's deputy director meetings or their HR manager meetings and make presentations and just start to build awareness about the program. That was probably the biggest
Mhm.
challenge.
And thank you, by the way, because you did appear at our continuous improvement
Yep.
um, practice. So, community of practice, my words are escaping me, but that was the perfect platform for you to share that information at. So thank you for joining us with that.
Yeah, absolutely. But those were, I think, the biggest challenges, and then the other one has been technology. It's time and effort and resources to build the platform that we need to really manage the program as efficiently as possible and free us up to do those things that will increase participation in the program. So right now we have a very rudimentary and very manual system for tracking the suggestions and managing that whole process of communicating with everybody, that's all the different stakeholders as suggestions move through that process.
And I apologize, but I said that was my last question. But as this always happens, you brought up another one. So your team, how many people are on your team?
So we're a small but mighty group. There are 4 people in the program, including me. So
Okay. And then how many ideas are rolling in? Is it, like an influx of ideas that are coming in, and so there's somewhat of a backlog? Just want to give folks an idea of what that pipeline looks like. So if they're, waiting a while, I know you did give some process timelines, but just also want to push out that empathy out there just and patience because you are a small and mighty team, and I'm curious how many of these ideas are rolling your way.
sure. We've so in the first year we got just a little over 100 ideas. So they're not there's not uh, a fire hose of ideas, and and I think maybe that's a little bit by design because again, there's some work involved in submitting an idea. Really, it's not just it's not just, hey, I think the state should do this and throw it over the fence. It's I have an idea, I see something, here is my solution, here's what the cost benefit analysis is, here's the research that I did to make sure that we could actually do this and implement it. So there's a little bit of work involved
Mhm.
to make sure, because what we don't want to be is constantly going to an agency and saying, hey, somebody had this idea, uh, can you do it? Without having all that background information and having
Mhm.
that vetting and having that research done to make sure that it's, or at least to have it seem to be practical to present to the agency. So we want to be mindful of the time and effort that would be involved on the agency side to evaluate those suggestions. So really the time is more managing the suggestions throughout that process when they're, following up, making sure that they are getting evaluated in a timely manner. And if for some reason they can't complete it in that 45-day window, then working with them to establish a new timeline and communicating that to the suggester and all the other things that we need to do to prepare for board meetings. So making sure that we're providing reports to the board members about what the suggestions are and the recommendations from the agency and all the background information. So it's all that stuff that really takes up a lot of our time.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. That is a
Yeah.
lot. Well, thank you for that. Is there anything that we did not discuss that you would like to share? I think you covered quite a bit, but
Yeah. I can't think of anything. I just, I guess, you mentioned the whole thing about reaching out to the frontline workers. And I think that, that is a lean concept, right?
yeah.
I mean, that's the Toyota method is to get constant feedback from the frontline workers, what's working, what's not, how can, and hearing that and acting on it and continuously improving those processes. So we're, I don't think of us as lean practitioners exactly, but I think of us as facilitators of lean practices
Mhm.
and also a way for the state to encourage that type of thinking and to reward it while at the same time, reducing costs and making the government more efficient. So it just all ties together really nicely.
Such fun work. All right, original ideas. Do your research. When you submit, come with some data to show how it's going to save. Um, this is exciting. Is there a website? You mentioned a website earlier
We
that they can
do
go.
have a website. It has kind of a long URL, but
We never
it's
know these off the top of our heads, so I
right.
just
Yeah,
kind of
if you go to
spearhead it.
productivity board at sos.wa.gov, you will get to our website. And it's also, you can drill down to it through the Secretary of State's website.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time, Greg. Thank you
Sure.
for sharing this excellent, great news. Thank you for leading the program that recognizes such awesome ideas and promotes efficiency throughout the state. As always, it's wonderful talking with you, and I just appreciate the share of this information. And I hope that anyone who is listening to this has been inspired. And if you have some ideas you're sitting on, go a little deeper, flesh them out, get some research. And if it's something that you think can really, eliminate some waste and create efficiency and save some money, get to submitting. All right. Have a
Yeah.
great day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Talia. It was great to see you.
Oh, it's always great.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.